So there's a little delay, but I'm going to let people come, give them a few minutes, and see what happens. There is a little delay between my phone where I'm checking and my computer. So if I'm looking down, I'm just checking my phone just to see
Okay.
how it's going. How are you this evening?
I'm doing great.
Good, 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 good.
Doing good.
See you.
Almost bedtime.
Hmm.
Almost bedtime.
Definitely almost bedtime for me. What time is
Yeah.
it? 7? Oh yeah. Yep.
8 o'clock. Last night I went to bed at like 7. I was so tired. I was worn out.
Oh, I'm sure. I thought
But
yesterday was
worth it.
Thursday.
Hmm?
So I thought yesterday was Thursday. I was kind of
Oh,
disappointed.
that's not good. Yeah, you wake up and it's like, oh no, not Friday.
Oh well. Oh well.
So how does this work? Just
So
stream on Facebook?
yeah, it's streaming on Facebook. I was gonna stream on YouTube, but I've never streamed on YouTube before, and I had to like verify something, and they said it took 24 hours. So
Uh,
hopefully, I'll be able to repost or something.
so
So
does this for our group or is this like
yeah,
anybody can?
for live. Yeah, it's just a group. I didn't
Okay.
share it to, like, my personal or anything like that, so I just
Yeah.
put it in the group.
Okay,
Alright.
good.
Yes, so that way it's and still, like, this group is supposed to be a safe space, so I
Mhm.
want it to be where it's focused on assistant principals pretty much the majority of assistant principals are aspiring.
Yeah.
I think I got a couple principals to kick out of here because some people got promoted.
Oh, nice. Congrats. Yay.
Too
Wait,
funny.
I
Okay,
pulled my hair back. I don't think I can do the.
okay. All right, so tell Ryan to get off of the internet so he doesn't slow us down. I know it's his birthday, but don't
The
slow us.
only one it's the boyfriend, the Madison's boyfriend's in here, but are we okay? Am I
Yeah, you're
breaking
good.
up?
You're good. It just went.
Okay.
You
I'm
went.
like I'm
Pause
right
first.
next to the router, but you do not want to see this man cave. This is a boy cave, I should say. Boy cave. I
Too
can't
cute. All
believe
right.
I'm even sitting in here.
I'm not even gonna say anything. Okay.
Oh
So,
god.
I can see on here. Okay. No, let's get. All right. I'm going. La da da. Bam. Okay. So, hi everyone. Good evening. Good or Thursday now evening. Welcome to Collaboration Over Competition. It's a virtual conversation series that I started technically back in August, and I had a wonderful panel of assistant principals, and we were talking about testing season, and then it just went into but I want to bring this back where I'm able to have conversations with other assistant principals or aspiring assistant principals who have some type of expertise or some type of background that they want to share. They want to share. There's background, right? First year AP,
There,
there's a topic
yeah, there's background.
um,
I got some knowledge a little bit.
that they want to share with others. Because remember, the purpose of this, well, I'm Joyce. If you don't know, I'm Joyce, and I'm the creator of Alve Pro, a network for positive professionals. And I created Alve Pro almost a year ago now. It was around April. I came up with this name, and Alve is my daughter's middle name. And at that time, if you haven't heard the story, we were going through something. It's personal. We were going through something. I needed for her to feel good again. Okay. So I said, you know what? I wanted to create something for assistant principals. And so therefore, I used her name in the title of my business. So Alve Pro is a network, but it's just an umbrella of other things that I have going on. So, but again, I wanted to focus on aspiring and current assistant principals because I too am an assistant principal and I know the struggles that it involves becoming an assistant principal and remaining an assistant principal because I'm always transparent. My foot has been half one foot out the door since day one almost. Okay. So when you hit the ground running and you just don't know what you don't know. I know that's cliche, but it's so true. So I wanted to create a space for assistant principals to learn so that they feel a little support. That's why we have the mentorship, and I have a mentorship curriculum that I'm working on. That way we have some type of support, global support, a network for us. So that's the whole point. We're developing and we're supporting the assistant principal and those who are aspiring to be assistant principals because the job is tough. So before we get started, if you are on, please give some feedback when you join, give feedback, some encouragement, ask questions. We won't be on here for a long time, but the time that we are on, I want it to be meaningful for everyone, even if it's in a playback. So if you're watching this after the fact, completely fine. You can always give feedback. You can always add comments at any time. So tonight I'm bringing on Karen Pinkney, and she's a new assistant principal this year. So Karen, when did you start exactly?
October 1st. Well, the 29th, but October 1st.
Okay, so October. So not even like you didn't even get your feet wet through summertime. It was bam, October. Karen's also one of my mentees. So we have a great relationship, which is why I am so thankful for you to be here this evening. And this is an opportunity for you to just share some of those nuances in your journey. I know your journey doesn't look like everyone's, no one's journey is the same. So when we share certain things, sometimes people can relate to our experiences in our journeys, and that's what matters. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your educational background.
Okay, Karen Pinkney. I started as a English teacher. My first right out of Florida State, go Noles. I taught at a high school. Do you want me to say names or Seminole
So,
High? Seminole High. I started out with freshman English, and as new teachers years ago, I guess that was what 1999. So over 20 years ago. New teachers were floaters. I had 4 different classrooms. I carried my literature books on a TV cart. And then moved up the ranks. They saw the teaching ability that I had, and um, I was like 22, 21, 22. So I was like, I don't want seniors. I'm too close, And then over the years, I did that for 4 years, and then I became 4 years. Yes, I became a stay-at-home mom. So I took 10 years off and raised 2 children. Went back to work, I guess, when my daughter was 10 and my son was, they're 4 years apart. What's that? 6, 10 and 6. And that's when I went to the middle school route and absolutely loved it. Loved being back in the classroom, loved teaching. But I hit the ground and leadership sort of just found me. I found my way again. Sorry. And they had me in Volusia County doing kind of like what we're doing, like video chats with other teachers and curriculum leader for Volusia County. And then, so I was there for 3 years, ended up moving to Orange County. And now I was at Wolf Lake Middle, 8th grade language arts, leadership stuff. And then I knew, I guess in 2017, I knew I needed to move on up. So I went and got my master's, and at Stetson, I did that for a year, got my master's, and then I knew I needed to get out of the classroom. I needed some school leadership, not just teacher leadership. Because, you can be, I was a department chair, I was the PLC lead, and did a lot of PLC trainings with the district. So I ended up going to Piedmont Lakes as a dean, which certainly helped my career because I'm now doing discipline at the elementary school, since it's just me and my boss, me and the principal. So I was there for almost 3 years because I was pulled up in October. So I was the dean for 2 years. And of course, COVID hit. So I was a dean at home. And then I was the only dean last year to be brought back right away when half the school came back. Which was amazing because I pretty much I made the decisions. I ran the school. I ran the lunches. It totally, looking back, prepared me for the lunch shifts that I'm running now, for the
right.
discipline that we're doing now, for the parent phone calls. Cause
Yes.
you have to make those phone calls to the parents. So it definitely helped.
So let's take a step back to you gave us those experience, your educational experience, right? And I heard you say that you had, high school, you went to middle school, you went from county to county, and there was a time where you decided you wanted more of the outside of classroom experience for leadership. What was that change in mindset when you go from being an instructor, right? You're a teacher and you're in your four walls. Something has to click to where you feel you are wanting to pursue administration, right? What
Yeah,
what was that change for
you,
you?
you want to have that. It was either maybe being a coach, because I've always wanted to help teachers, and as an administrator, that was my goal. Well, as when I was in the classroom, I'm like, there's so many teachers that are getting burnt out. When I'm in the classroom, there's nothing I can do. I can just talk to them, at our meetings on Wednesdays, or in the hallway, or in the teachers lounge. And I'm like, gosh, I know we're all burned out. I know, but you had these new teachers, and they're like, I'm done. I'm like, no, 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 no. Let me give you some tips. So it
Yeah,
was either coaching, it was like instructional coach, or a dean. And at that point, the dean came available. But that love and that passion to help new teachers fine tune
yeah,
their craft, because we all know it's tough out there.
exactly. And I feel like that's a lot of the transition or the mindset shift is we're working with children in those four walls, and then we have that passion to work with adults.
Yes.
Or it's, that and you want to impact more children. And a
Correct.
lot of times that's the way to do it, unless you go
Yeah.
start a nonprofit and you're impacting different, children and organizations, things like that. But that's the way to do it, is to get out of that classroom. So that's a mindset shift that I also had. It
Yeah.
was, I'm so tired of being, just in these four walls. I wanted to be out in the school, going into other classrooms.
And
So,
that the other
mhm,
thing, because as an eighth grade teacher, I was doing eighth grade activities. So I
yeah,
put on the eighth grade, helped put on the eighth grade dance, and then helped with eighth grade crazy eight day. And so I'm like, all these kids, I want
yeah.
to, like, exactly
Who
like
are
you said.
you?
Yeah, yeah. And even still, the kids, my children's friends are like, oh, Miss, I used to be Conley, but
Mhm.
Miss Pinkney, and all that. So, but yeah, it was that. And I actually got that as the dean, and I loved it. But
Yeah.
it was
Different
also
feel.
when I was in helping with classroom management. And then this last school year, when I started, because from August to October, they had me as the instructional ELA coach. So
Uh-huh.
we had new teachers, we had old veteran teachers who still needed the curriculum background. So
Right.
that once I started doing that, I knew I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly. Once you get your feet wet into some type of leadership, you just know that
Mhm.
this is what you want to do. So describe the process from graduation. So you went from, you got your bachelor's at Florida State, you
Yep.
taught some, and then you decided to go into leadership and knew you had to go get your master's. So you went to Stetson, and then you move from graduation to, okay, now what do I do? I know every district's different, but tell us a little bit about that process. Once you had that, degree, your master's in educational leadership or something similar, then what do you do?
Right. Feely.
What?
But you I grad we grad I grad Stetson's program prepares you so well. But
Uh-huh.
out here to toot their horn, even though they did great. They helped us all pass the Feely. Let's just put it that way. But you graduate with the Feely pass. Now there are some people out there who didn't. But I definitely, you definitely have to have that to get into being an assistant principal. So
And
it
the
just
Feely is
depends
a
on
state
route.
assessment for
Everybody
anybody, 'cause I realized that other states, it's not the Feely, it's something completely
Oh,
different. I
right, right,
noticed
right.
that. So it's
Whatever
that
that's right.
state assessment to get, your certification.
Florida Educator Leadership Exam. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I graduated with that being passed, thank goodness, because that was a nightmare. Just the worrisome of, am I going to pass? But yes, we passed. And then, you contact your district and find out what is their process, because I was ready to apply. I'm like, all right, I'm ready. I got this paper and it's time. Well, that's not quite how it is. Orange County does you apply to be in the pool, and in that application process, you go through a lot. You have to do, you have to do an application, and in that application are like 6 essays on leadership standards and how do you handle it. Then you go to the in basket, and an in basket is a scenario like you're given a day in the life of a principal, and what do you have to do. Um, it's like different events pop up, and how are you going to handle it, and you have to answer emails, and you have to deal with teacher complaints or a crying teacher.
Parents. Mhm.
Yep, you remember that. And
Mhm.
then once you pass that, you go through interviews. So
Right.
you're given the interview, and you look at using, we use Marzano in Orange County. I know Volusia County uses Danielson evaluation. And I think Seminole County is Marzano as well. Don't quote me on that. I did not apply in Seminole at the time. So then, it took me about a year to get through that process. I was invited to the in basket. Um, the AP pool to pull APs closed. I had missed the deadline. I did it, but I had missed the deadline, so it kind of put me back a few more months. But then went back in, got into the pool, got approved. Then you sit and wait.
Yeah,
Don't,
it's a lot of sit and
don't
wait.
get don't get discouraged.
It's
It's sitting and waiting, and because in Orange County, you don't apply for positions; they contact you. So, let your principal know. If you have friends at other schools, let them know, hey, I'm in the pool. This is where I'm wanting to go. Word of mouth, to be honest, I think is what happened. And then I had interview after interview. I had interviews in high school. I had interviews at middle school. I had spontaneous phone calls. Hey, this is an interview, but I just wanted to talk to you. Um, and even though I never taught elementary school or worked besides volunteering as a parent, I was in the school all the time because being a stay-at-home mom gave me the opportunity to volunteer. Um, an elementary school called me, and I hadn't given up, but I was getting so discouraged because I'm like, well, what am I doing wrong? And I know, Joyce, you put out there, here's some interview questions. I mean, you can nail the interview questions and be
yeah,
like, oh, I think that went great, but then you didn't get the job, and that happened
right.
multiple times.
So what would you say is like your biggest setback when you were going through that process? Was it a mindset or was it
That's
lack of just what was it?
I don't think it was the experience. Well,
Okay.
you never know. I mean, do they want someone who has experience of being an AP, or do they want a newbie so that they can train you in their ways?
Right.
Um, the mindset, and I pray. So I believe, God had a hand in it for sure. And the reason I say that is, here I'm at an elementary school, which is maybe I said something right in this particular interview, and I said, my goal in 5 to 7 years is to be a principal at an elementary school. I know I was honest. I'm like, I don't have elementary experience. I said I love children,
Mhm.
and I love helping teachers do their thing, improve on what they've got. And thank goodness it worked because I got the
Exactly.
job.
Exactly. Exactly. So we talked about mindset shift. I think that's a lot as we're going through this interview process, and I've spoken on that like openly. When I've noticed a change in my ability to answer interview questions, it's about my mind.
Yeah.
So did those mock interviews with some of our district. I did with the little cohort that I'm in, and the first one I literally was about to run out the door because I just wasn't prepared. I
Right.
wasn't. I said I can't do this in front of our EAD, but that's
Uh,
fine. The
yeah.
second time we did it, I was in a different mindset, and I was like, "Oh, I can do this. Like I've done it before. Like it's." And it was night and day. And they were like,
Mhm.
okay, that was completely different. And that was it. It wasn't, it was not even a month. So it's not like I gained all this experience. It
Right.
was just the way that I walked in, I was more confident. So mindset is everything when it comes to interviewing and that sit and wait game.
Yes,
Now,
I
that doesn't mean you're just gonna all of a sudden you have a great mindset and you're like, "Oh, I got this job," and you're gonna get it, but it also mindset means if you don't get it, how do you react to not getting that job? So, are you going to go get discouraged? Like you said earlier, don't get discouraged. Just know
don't give
that
up.
wasn't the
Don't
right
give up
fit.
because honestly, the interviews after interview, honestly, it just wasn't a right fit. It may not have
Right,
been a right fit for that principal and me. It may not have been in, well, we know it wasn't in my plan, God's plan.
right.
Um, um, but there was some that I was like, dang, I nailed it. That was awesome. I would so love to work at this particular school. I think, but it just didn't work for at that moment, and honestly, I'm thankful that they didn't because I love where I'm at and I'm
Good,
lucky to have ended up here.
good.
You don't
Exactly.
know. Now you don't know if you're gonna love where you end up. I mean, nobody knows because honestly, they pick you up, drop
And
you
drop
in,
you.
and that's it. That's it. So
Yeah.
you make the best of what you're given and what you're chosen for.
And that's specific to our county
Oh, right.
because not every county's like that. Like some of the counties still, you're able to see the school and apply directly to the school. So when
And
I
that's
see
that's
that
also
push and go,
I applied to Volusia County. I don't think I finished completely through my application. But then I also applied for Osceola, and both of those did not have the pool. So Osceola County, it was you turn in your application, you write your essays, and then they send out notifications. I didn't get many notifications. I got approved, but I think where we're at is just booming. So
yeah, exactly, exactly. So now we're gonna move into because I heard you say something about like basically you do when you get dropped there, you're not exactly sure what you're being dropped into. That's for us, our experience. But no matter what, you can go into the interview and you can feel good and you can learn all this stuff about the school and you're like, oh my gosh, that's my dream school. That's where I want to be. And then you get there, you step in there, you got your office all set up, you're ready to go. You start doing some working and you realize, oh, this isn't very easy. This
right.
isn't easy, right? So let's talk about your first few days on campus. What did that look like for you?
Day one, or I should say day two, 30/30. I should say it's not a 30/30. What is it?
Severe
Delayed.
weather, delayed dismissal, yes.
They sent that out because we were all calling it 30/30, and they're like, it's called delayed dismissal. So yes, and my principal had left. She had an appointment, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in charge. Oh my gosh, I've been working for this all along. And I didn't know their policies and procedures for this dismissal. She
Mhm.
gave me a 5-minute rundown of you need to do this, and this. Now I had a notebook with me all the time my first few months of school because I'm a note taker, and I know I have the notes on the phone, but when I
It's
write
different.
it, it's
Mhm.
different. So she was going off telling me exactly what to write or what to do during that time. You got to call the
Yeah,
West Learning. You got to call here. Your buses are going to now be late, and where do you store the kids because they can't leave. um but thank goodness, and honestly, I was lucky enough. This is the school's second year, so their new school. So everyone is the parents are learning the procedures. The teachers know, because we have maybe 3 delayed dismissals a year. Knock on wood, we might have one tomorrow. No, I hope not.
always.
So far we've only had 2. So far we've only had 2.
That's true.
But that was welcome to being it,
Yeah.
welcome to
Yeah.
being in charge. And I must say that it minus a couple parents who were upset about our procedures. You're going to have that because they
Mhm.
didn't want to get out of their car to get their
Yeah.
kid out of the I was like,
or they want to
I
wait, or
let your kids get struck by lightning, but if you want to take them,
yeah,
so yeah, so that was my first, and then it was really just a lot of learning, and because it was October, we needed to get all of our coachings in for our observations
observations, yeah.
and walkthroughs. So it was
Mhm.
like you hit the ground running. Really do. You hit the ground running. And I know you go through Marzano training or Danielson training or whatever observation your district does. But really it's the on the job training that really has helped me. Um, I mean, you have to have the background, and that definitely prepared me. I felt prepared.
Right, right.
So she would come in and she would do a walkthrough form, or I would do the walkthrough form. She would do the coaching, and then we would talk outside the classroom. What did you see here? What did so she would walk me through it.
Yeah, it's good to have that perspective too. So when you do start as an assistant principal and you're coming in not knowing a lot, right? But you
Yeah.
also have to kind of match yourself where your principal is, because you don't want to be completely opposites in how you evaluate, because then that becomes a little tricky. Like, oh, well, I don't want them to evaluate me. I want them to. So you have to kind of be on the same page in a sense. So it's nice to calibrate yourself so you're not
Yeah.
way off. So if
And
I
actually,
would give you a low rating and they would give a high rating, that's problematic. If you guys are about in the middle, that's
yeah,
better. So
you're
it's always good to
exactly
do that.
right. You're exactly right. And we've worked together this whole time, like, with a lot of the things. If I have a question or like, hey, I saw this, so
What do you
she's
think about? Mhm.
definitely need because the teachers talk. They
Yeah,
talk.
they do. They talk a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's
For,
reality.
I don't think, thankfully I've been in schools where it's like there's that barrier between teachers and admin and that animosity. Thankfully at this school, second year in, it's not really there. And I
Mhm.
think being open and being available, um, you know, helps.
Yeah, and culture is everything. Like your principal being there 2 years, that's her culture.
Yes.
Sometimes when you're coming into a school where the culture has been there for 15 years, and you've got new admin people, that's when you start to see some of the
Yep.
admin teacher challenges.
Yeah.
Okay, so establishing yourself as you came in, you're a new AP. Everybody knew you were new. It wasn't a secret.
Yep.
The way
Yep.
that we do it in our district, it's announced at the board meeting. And you know the difference between an experienced AP and a brand new one. Plus, it's just reality people talk. We're huge, but it's very small. So no matter what, you're coming into a new environment, especially being a newbie. What did you do to establish yourself as the assistant principal, Karen, Miss Pinkney, not the coach, Miss Pinkney, or the dean,
Right.
Miss Pinkney?
Right. I think the fact of I mean, luckily it just you carry yourself that it.
Even if
And
you don't know, you kind of just
you kind of just like, and if you don't know it, you let them know. I was open. Listen, I'm not, you don't put
transparency.
I don't put on airs. Transparency. Yes. In fact, I had a lot of teachers just when we did our pre and post before Christmas. I was only in what October, November, December. And when we were having our conversations, they're like, "Oh, well, where were you assistant principal before?" And I said,
Oh,
"This is my first gig." And they're like, "No." Um, so
confidence.
it's the confidence. Yeah, you
Mhm.
go in and you assume like, "Dang, I've worked for this. This is where I'm it. We're a
Mhm.
boss." And you keep that line there. But
Yeah.
again, I mean, I'll be first to admit when we did that 30-30 and they're like, "What do you want to do, Miss Pinkney?" I'm like,
Yeah. Oh, see,
"Hey, what have you guys done in the
we
past?
usually do.
We can't let these kids out in this storm." And they're like, "Well, and so that's I'm not gonna play like I know the answers. I mean, they helped me through it, and I
Yeah.
credit the team and the staff for working along with me.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a big thing too, and you earn that trust with people when you let them know, like, I can take care of it, but I don't know what the heck we're doing, but let me find out. I will
Yes.
figure it out. Let me go figure it out. What have you done in the past? How does this look with when before I got here, how did it look? They need to know that you're going to handle it, but you need a little second to figure it out.
That's
Um,
exactly right. Yep. And they knew I was handling it. And they know now, like they know I get it done. Like we're on the move, we're on the move constant. If I'm in my office, that's like a shock to my system alone because we're out walking. I mean, I'm upstairs, downstairs. I'm out in the recess field just checking in. Today I was we had a custodial staff member who needed to leave early. I was at the dumpster dumping lunch trash,
mhm.
to help out. That's
Yeah.
who we are.
That is true. And when they see that you're in the mix with them, that's also another way that you can establish yourself as a servant leader. You're not too good to do anything. You sit
Yeah.
down, you talk to everybody, you're out and about, you're speaking to people in a loving and respectful manner. I think that's what the schools need. They need
And
servant leaders, people who are there in the trenches with you.
and positive. And that's the other thing is some of the teachers are like, man, you just find the positive in the situation. I was like, well, we're
You have
also
to.
down about things, but he came to class
Look at
on
it
time.
this.
He came to class on time.
That is very true. Okay, so don't want to be too much longer, but two more questions or top or ways we're going to gauge this conversation. What advice would you give an aspiring assistant principal who's having a hard time landing their AP job?
That would be me. I mean, it took, well, I got my 2018 and then, um, well, then I had the dean job and it took me a year. Like, stick with it. Just know that a job will come along. There are lots of AP jobs out there, and they're trying to find a specific fit, and so are you. Like, for example, I had an interview, it went well and they said I was a contender, but they had already had an ELA background. They wanted a science math background, an AP with a science math background. That
Right.
wasn't anything I could control. Really, you can't control anything except, preparing for your interviews, which many of them do. Like, you are preparing. You even have those meetings at your nighttime where you talk with people on your lives. Reading up, like I would print out interview questions from just the internet, assistant principal job questions, and just write down my own answers just so I could be prepared because I don't do well off the cuff when
Yeah.
I'm in a room like that.
Yeah. Hmm.
So when I had when I had those phone calls, my mind was in that mindset of,
Right.
you're no longer a teacher responding, you're a leader responding, and that's a key.
Agreed. Agreed. So if there was just anything that you would change about your journey, if there's anything you would do differently, what would
Um,
that be?
yeah, only the fact when I would get discouraged. I kind of dwelled on it a little bit, like, well, shoot, maybe I'm just going to be here forever, or maybe I need to leave education because the job's not coming along. But looking back, it's like that. Those were my stepping stones. Those were my learning, and it's okay to have 5, 6, 7 interviews and not
Right.
get it. Know that it will come. It will come.
That's true. Very true. So that is all we have this evening. I really appreciate the dialogue, the conversation. It's important to sit and reflect and to talk and to be supportive of one another in this role and to give as much encouragement and words of wisdom as we
Yeah.
can. I know there are some of you, I just did the TikTok on that the video where it's like I just feel that way. Like I would watch, people and I'd be like, I can do that. Like, why not me? Like, I'm ready. Like, I can go and I can solve all these problems. And I would be out with the teachers and I would support you. And if it was me, I would do this. And it's so hard to watch on the sidelines, but just know that your time is coming. I remember my first principal, he would tell me that, like, even though he was trying to make it go faster for me, once he realized it wasn't going as fast as he had hoped, he said, it's just not the right time. And when it's the
And
right time, it's gonna
yeah,
happen.
I heard it. It's gonna happen.
Mhm.
Just not the right fit or not the right, like I said, that the background. Maybe they didn't need a disciplined person who had background in discipline. They needed coaching, and I didn't have the coaching um, courses. I had a few, but I didn't have that part that they were looking. But I had what this school needed, so
Exactly.
I
You were
yeah,
ready. You had everything you needed. So, everyone, when you do watch this, give us some feedback and we'll be doing this again. So, if you're interested in just sitting down and having a conversation with Joyce, please let me know. I do have some people who I'm going to reach out to because you told me on a survey that you have some expertise or some background knowledge that you need to share with the rest of us. So, look out. Hopefully, I will get that out soon. So, everyone, have a great evening. Thanks, Karen. You all have a great Friday tomorrow. It's
I know, I
Friday,
agree.
a long week, but it's all good. And I hope everyone had a great Assistant Principals week last week. If not,
Amazing,
keep
amazing.
smiling. You're doing a great job, and you don't need a week for us to tell you that. So, have a great evening, everyone.
Good
Bye.
night.
Thank
Bye.
you.